Hello everybody, welcome back to another money-making weekend. You know what time it is. We're here to spread the love. Liam Jenkins, Ricky Amendeo. It's week 3 of the NFL. It's a tasty one. I mean, before we get into that though, and all the picks and the cheat or not to cheat and all of the fun bets to place this week, we have to go over what happened in week 2. Ricky, I know we're talking about spreading the love. He hit his feelings a bit last week. And I didn't want to bring it up, but you can't avoid something like that, surely.
Okay. Yeah, so for everybody, I placed, I had a free bet through DraftKings, and I placed, I think it was 12 legs. It was nearly every game, and every single game hit, except the Chiefs only won by 3, and I had them at 3.5. And I nearly cried my eyes out. Grown man crying. I nearly cried for about hours straight. I was sitting there just sucking it up. I was like, don't cry, you're in public.
It was just the image you sent me, and you were like, I could cry, and I was like, okay, that's either a massive win, or I might actually have a breakdown. And then just going over that screenshot hurt me to read. It's that instant gut punch of you hate it. It's so bad. So hopefully there's no more of that luck this week. But how did your individual bets do?
So as I did the week before, I went back and re-listened to the pod and some of the stuff I added to my notes. I went through. Luckily, we had another winning week. It wasn't as big. It was only 2.5 units, but we went 9-6 on my picks at least. I'm not. So I'm just happy that anytime you could stay above breaking even, it's positive in my opinion. So.
Yeah, I think I was 8-8 on mine, but I made the mistake, which I often do with betting, of not taking my own advice. And then, have you ever seen the show The League? The fantasy football one?
Oh, that show's hilarious.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So, when they're on about the, what was it, when they're having a pee and they're doing, the lineup tinkering? I can't remember what it's called.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. I can't.
So when you're just constantly overthinking everything, and it's just you're constantly tinkering with your it's just that with betting, and I had so many bets almost placed that I didn't, and then doubles that I didn't, and parlays and treble. And then I ended up, not trusting myself, betting teams that I didn't want to bet because I was like, late move, yeah, do it. And then I ended up losing a bit of money in the end. So then I won it back, and then I played blackjack, and then we won't talk about what happened next. So we're not going to do that again this week. But before we get into the games, guys, just a massive thank you for your support, because I don't think you guys realise how much it means. Just to say, PSN Radio, this podcast has only been alive as long as PSN Radio. We have just had our first ever 100 listen day on PSN Radio, which within 2 weeks is pretty good, I'd say. So we are buzzing with that. And we're very, very grateful for your gambling degeneracy. And we will try and reward you with some winning picks this week. So we'll start off then. The first game I've got listed here is Las Vegas and New England. 5-point favourites are the Patriots. It's I don't know, this one, I feel like it's trying to draw you in. I feel like it's trying to just bait you in to making a silly bet. And I can't tell if I'm just paranoid because of last week. But what have you got for this one?
So, I'm actually feeling a little more confident, I think, than you. I don't think the Raiders, I'm still not sold on them. A very impressive win last week. Not shooting that down by any means. But I did some research, and Bill Belichick is just so good with his defense. And the last 5 times the Patriots have let up at least 30 points, they've gone 5-0 against the spread the next week.
Oh, wow.
And I was looking at some of the teams they faced last year, and the first team that came to mind was Dallas, because obviously Dallas was a very good offensive team last year. And before they played the Patriots, they had 37 points, 24 points, and 35 points. Went to New England and only scored 9. So I'm very confident about the Patriots in this one. The 5 points is really throwing me off too. But the Raiders are allowing, I think, 6.5 or 6.6 points or yards per play, I should say. And the Patriots are 23-12 against the spread after a loss. Vegas is on a short week, traveling all the way over here to the East Coast. Mm-hmm. I would take Pats by 5 any day, I think.
That's reassured me a lot, because I was leaning to the Patriots purely based off the fact that it's a short week. They're coming off a big win. It's a bit of a letdown spot. Whereas with the Patriots, you've got Cam Newton who puts up, nearly 70% pass completion, 400 yards. Like that game against Seattle was one of the best football games I've seen in years. Like, it was so good. And Cam Newton looked amazing in it. And so I was like, all right, well, even without weapons, Cam Newton is balling out over there. Defense isn't looking that bad. I mean, the Seahawks are clearly, I think, the pride of the NFC at this point. So being beat up by them isn't exactly the biggest insult in the world. And the only stat that I had of any relevance that you haven't picked up on was that Derek Carr is 1-4 on a short week. So that was like, all right, let's see how the rest of it goes. And with your numbers as well, I feel a lot better now about betting the Patriots -5. And I've just realised, at a quick impromptu, we haven't done our cheat versus no cheat. So was this one your little flirty pick, or have you got another one to try and tempt me in?
So I'll premise what I'm about to say with this. This week, I noticed in the past 2 weeks, when I tried to get too fancy, those are where most of my losses are coming from.
Yeah.
So this week, I'm like, okay, I'm going to try making it real simple. I'm only going to pick spreads and maybe an over-under if I don't like the game at all.
Yeah.
Because I feel, especially this week, there's some good games this week. Like, I was looking at the schedule, like, a lot of these games could really go either way. And I really think we're going to have good football to watch this week, which is really exciting. So, I picked most of my games that were by the spread and over under, like I just said. But my cheat or no cheat, I decided to stay fancy. But I have two, so I'll let you decide. So my first is one of my spread picks, and I won't go into too many details because I'll save it for later. But I have the Steelers -4 against the Texans, and then my second one that, again, you could pick if you want. You could go with both, go with neither. Is Dak Prescott throwing over 1.5 touchdowns? So,
that's spicy. Okay.
I'm very confident in that Dak one, but like I said, every time I try to get too fancy, it backfires. So I wanted to have a backup just in case you didn't like the player props, or maybe you didn't have it offered with your fancy British sports book. So I got both of them there.
Do you know what? That's interesting because that Seahawks defense, obviously, Cam Newton, as we just said, bruised it massively.
Yeah.
That Dallas offense is, I think that the receivers are a lot quicker than we've seen. So, like, yes, DK Metcalf is a ridiculous athlete, but he's not on the same speed scale as Amari Cooper and CD and even Michael Gallup to that degree. So, I like that. I might take both of them. I might genuinely take both of them.
And I don't want to go into too deep because I know we're going to talk about this game later, but Cowboys lead the league in plays of 10+ yards, and Seahawks allow the most. So keep that in mind.
You are
Dak's
saucy today. Where has this come from? Oh wow. Okay, Ricky's bringing the heat. All right. Okay, I'm sold. I'm taking that. I might have to. It might be a dog over the counter job on that one. Looking at it. All right. So mine to tempt you then. I feel boring with mine because it's been the same pick for 3 weeks now. It feels like. Arizona Cardinals, -5.5. There are two you could kind of parlay. I think that the total for this game is massive. Like, absolutely massive. It's like, 55 at the moment? Lions have scored 44 points in 2 weeks combined, and the Cardinals have given up 35, which is the second least in the league. So, I don't see that going over. Personally, I think that will go under. But if you want to tease it and go Arizona and under, that would be the way I go. But you look at the Lions, they've been really bad. Cardinals have been outstanding. Arizona 12 and home, ATS in their last 14 home games. And the Lions are 1-7 v the Cardinals against the spread. So, like, you take into account how Kyler Murray is, I would say, an early MVP candidate with what he's doing so far. DeAndre Hopkins is balling out. It's just too easy for me. Like, I don't see Arizona at home bottle into Detroit. I really don't.
Okay, I know we might be going out of order here, but can we go straight into this game? Because I have a lot to say, and I was really excited about this.
I don't know how many Red Bulls you've had before today's show, but let's go. Let's go.
I don't know why you would not take Cardinals 5.5. Like, the Lions are 1-7 against the spread in their last 8 times playing Arizona. Mm-hmm. The Cardinals have like a whole new franchise. Like, Cliff Kingsbury, Kyler Murray, DeAndre Hopkins. Like you said, Murray literally looks like an MVP candidate. He has 516 yards and rushed for 158 in the first 2 games. And the Lions allow the most rushing yards, can't pressure quarterbacks, and I think they only have 1 sack in the 2 games so far. And we've been complaining about the Eagles, but could you imagine only having 1 sack in 2 games between? Like, that's just mind baffling to me. I really like Matt Stafford, but they're one of, like, I don't know. Detroit's 2-11 against the spread in their last 13. Cardinals are 4-1 in their last 5. Take the Cardinals minus 5.5. I don't know why you want it.
Yeah, no, I fully agree. And it almost feels too good to be true. And there's that saying if something's too good to be true, it usually is. And that's the only thing scaring me is that, like...
That's what happened with that Colts game, too.
Yeah.
Not too good to be true, but I was looking at, like, 10.5. Like, what in the world am I... We'll talk about that, obviously, but...
Well, that's
what
right,
the
I
heck
got
am I
stung with the
missing?
Jets. So when I was saying I made mistakes of putting money where I shouldn't, and I said I kind of liked the Jets last week over the Niners, what I did was watch the Jets collapse early on and decide to lump them in play to cover myself, thinking they'll easily get a backdoor cover, which then clearly didn't happen. So, like, it's one of them where that line felt too good. I was like, the Jets should cover, the Niners are decimated by injury, and we'll get to that game later. But it feels like, I don't know why, but Vegas doesn't seem high on Arizona, and I can't quite work out why.
Yeah, I looked at that, and there's a couple spreads that I looked at, and I was literally like, what the heck am I missing? And this was one of them. I was like, why is it so low? Like, and that's why I started to do some research, like, do the Lions play in the Cardinals well? Like, I was obviously focusing only on the spread. I was like, do they play them well? Like, am I missing something? But there's nothing that I'm missing. Like, I don't understand. So I would take that. Until Vegas starts to trust Kyler more, take that every day of the week.
Yeah, I think that might just be what it is. Like, second year quarterback, it might well be something just holding it back a little bit in terms of value, or maybe it's a Detroit thing and it's an 0-2 team against the spread. It could easily be that trend that we've seen a lot of times before. So, yeah, that's interesting. Good, so we're on the same boat with that one then. So, Arizona 5.5, you're probably taking that anyway. We're both cheating. We're being dirty boys again. It's not the one. We're going to move on to our next game, though. LA Rams at Buffalo Bills. Bills -2. I feel like I'm playing the same bets every week. I really do. Like, this is the 3rd week in a row. The Bills are only 2-point favourites. That feels undervalued to me. They are 10-1 as favourites. And it is the first time, believe it or not, they have been favoured since 2016. Which is mad. Right? And I think we all forget how bad the Bills traditionally are. And how, like, uncharacteristic this is. So, the first time they've actually been favoured for a game in the best part of 4 seasons. What I love about this, forget anything else. Forget Josh Allen looking good. Forget that defense. Forget the running backs. Forget Cam Akers being out for the Rams. The Rams had to play Philly, fly back to LA, then fly back to Buffalo. Right? And neither team...
Too.
What was that?
I had this exact same thing written down.
Oh, I do. And it was like... Neither team, to me, has proven that much in terms of the opponents they've faced. Like, the Bills and the Jets, great. The Rams beat the Eagles. The Eagles beat themselves, I would say. So, at that point, Rams may be a bit fatigued. I'm riding that Josh Allen wave. I think Buffalo, I don't know what I'm missing there, unless I'm misreading that completely.
I mean, I'm not going to go as far as say I disagree with you. This is one of the games I'm not very confident in. Like you mentioned, the whole travel stuff. And this is pretty much, I mean, the Rams have beaten 2 teams better than the Bills have beaten, if that makes sense. Like, I would say that, like, in my opinion at least. And the Rams are also, one stat that kind of tripped me up here was that the Rams are 5-0 straight up and against the spread in 1 p.m. road kickoffs in the Eastern time zone with Sean McVay. I know that's really specific. And a lot of people hate those types of things. But it doesn't seem like the travel affects the McVay-coached Rams.
Ah.
So, this one's really been... this is one of those games I'm really looking forward to watching, honestly. I feel like there's going to be a lot to watch in this game. And another thing that kind of was swaying me a little away from the Bills, and you know me, I'm all in on the Bills Mafia right now.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I heard you jump through a table last week.
I almost did, honestly. But the Rams have only allowed 4 passing plays of more than 20 yards, and you of all people, I'm assuming, would know, like, the reason Josh Allen was rated so high coming out of college is because the dude has a cannon.
Mm.
So I feel like Aaron Donald, that defensive front, like, they're not going to give him much time to throw to get those deep strikes off, but I don't know if that's really enough to throw the Bills off from winning the game. So the best bet I actually had in this game was a Rams alt line 3.5 plus 3.5. I
Ooh.
feel like it's going to be a field goal game, so that 3.5 is going to be a big difference. But I could totally see this being like a 21-20, 24-20, like some stupid
Yeah.
real close score like that. So
No, I agree with that. I think I still don't know how many Red Bulls you've had today, but you are. I don't know if you're
oh,
decoding them. Like I'm a bit, I've got to be honest, Ricky. I'm a bit scared because we had a chat a few weeks ago. You're like, Liam, got to take a little break from writing in minutes. I'm going to school. Everything's hectic. I've got a lot on right now. You come onto this podcast and you are decoding information like you've just hacked into the Matrix. And I don't know what you are doing in this time that is not PSN, but it is not school. You're hacking some kind of database. And I'm all for it because this is absolutely wild. I think I was very close to dog on the counter and I might not have to be this week. That you've proven. Look, I don't know. The more I'm thinking about this now, you've got a point. And I think if it comes down to what quarterback do you trust, though, between this is the only argument I go back to. Do you trust Jared Goff against that Bills pass rush, or do you trust the Bills to stop Aaron Donald? The Eagles proved you can stop Aaron Donald because they did it last week. And if you think Josh Allen, mobile quarterback, I would say a bit more dangerous in open space than Jared Goff.
mm-hmm.
You're right, it's going to be a nightmare. It is a coin flip game. I'd be more tempted to either leave it, and I hate saying that because that was going to be one of my certain locks this week, or look at a total or a prop bet for like passing touchdowns or something. But yeah, you've infiltrated my head, and now I don't like it.
I can honestly say I think the only thing I've hacked in this month or so I've kind of taken a step back is actually my own brain. So goes to show if you're ever feeling overwhelmed, taking a step back won't hurt you.
There you
Because
go.
now
See,
we're spreading positivity on this podcast.
we love that. We are spreading the love. Is what we're seeing. All in the name of the game. Houston, Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh -4. I know you love this one. I wasn't liking it. I was leaning it. If we were doing live, love, laugh, I was laughing. I was like, haha, good bet. It wasn't a big one. But then I looked into the stats. And the fact that the Texans rank 31st against the run and the Steelers rank first in that and second in total defense, I don't think you need to look at anything else. Like, Deshaun Watson has been so turnover prone those first couple of weeks. It's been sloppy. I think the Texans are falling apart at the seams. I think this could be a beatdown.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Obviously, I gave that as one of my locks for the week. But another big thing that, I mean, I'm not a big X's and O's football guy, but I saw the Steelers were getting David DeCastro back this week. And, I mean, if you're looking for somebody for like that, because if anything, like J.J. Watt's scary.
Yeah.
Like, he's scary. Like, maybe DeCastro, he's been a top 15, top 10 guard the past 6 to 7 years. He's their best defensive or offensive lineman, I mean. Like, maybe that's what they need to really just shut down Watt and then really take more control of that game than they'll probably have. But something, I won't go into too much more because you kind of hit a lot of the stuff I had written down. But if anybody doesn't like the spread or the money line in this game, the Steelers are 2-8. I mean, let me rephrase that. Unders have hit in 8 of the last 10 Steelers games, while the Texans 5 straight unders have hit following a loss.
What's the total for this game?
I don't know. Hold on, I got Mantle up.
Oh, it's a race.
But I do know that it was
So it's,
or I mean,
it's 45,
like
45 and a half I've got.
okay, I got 46. So
Ooh.
the under could be a play in this one. It doesn't seem like, for whatever the reason, after losses, these teams like to score. But then in my head, that's like, why would you want to chase a trend in that aspect? See, I hate betting over unders because I can't do math. So like, I'll try to add, and I'm like last week, I think I bet on some over under, and like, I bet the under, and it was under 49, and the game ended at 48. But it took me a good 3 minutes to add to make it at 48. I was like, oh, this is close. It was like 31 or 30. I forget what the score was, but I was like, oh, my bet hit.
Yeah, I
So,
hate betting over-unders for the same reason, because A, you sit there all game going 31-2. Right, so if they score this and a 2-point conversion, do the onside
exactly.
kick and score a touchdown, and they cover. And I'm like, it's too much. But the other thing as well is that if you bet an under, you're betting the opposite of the point of football. And it's like, I don't like that. I feel like, if anything, if I was going to bet, like blindfold, and someone says, right, there's a football game, you bet an over-under. Like, gun to my head, I'm betting over, because I'm like, well, I want teams to score points, and there's more chance of them, scoring points than not. So I don't like the premise of betting under a total, because at any point, one fluke interception, pick six, one fumble that ends up in the 20, like we saw with the Eagles on a couple of occasions now. Like, all it takes is one 50-50 play, and before you know it, it's a totally different ball game. So I don't like betting totals. I only bet totals if I don't like the spreads. And I'm comfortable enough with the Steelers to avoid that, if that makes sense.
One of the reasons I live by Big Cats from Barstool's philosophy of never bet the under is because if you bet the under, you can be out as early as the first quarter. If you bet the over, you're technically never out of it.
No,
you can
that's
never be out. Like, you can never lose interest in the game because you lost a bet while betting an over. So that's another thing to keep in mind. So if you bet the under, they could score a crazy high amount of points in the first half, and then your bet's already done. And that's when you end up going to spend more money trying to chase your loss. At least with the over, it's always a possibility.
Yeah, no, that's a very good point. Okay, so I think we'll agree the safest bet then is Steelers -4. But if you want to be a bit frisky, if you like to live dangerously and need a big dopamine hit mid-game, then the under might be the play for you. If you feel like it's been a while since I've had an anxiety attack, let's just put the money on the under and hope for the best. All right, so this one, this is a nightmare game for me. Niners and Giants.
Ooh.
Giants +4 on this line. I hate this and everything about it, because on one side of the coin, the Giants are without Saquon Barkley. You're like, that's a big loss. That's probably worth a couple of points. I'd say Saquon, one of the best players in the league right now. On the other side of that, the Niners have lost. Well, who haven't they lost at this? It's easier to list that, isn't it? Like, they're without Jimmy G, Debo, massive amount of pass rushers, without Kittle. Nick Mullins looked a bit lost last week, if I'm honest. The game to me, and I know I've just sort of hate betting unders, this feels like a Shanahan run fest, and the Giants are allowing 138 yards per game on the ground. I think they're going to run over them. I think the Niners are just going to run the ball, keep it out of Mullins' hand as long as they can. And the Giants, it comes down to how confident are you in Daniel Jones in this spot.
Yeah, I mean, I think 41 was the lowest under this week.
Yeah.
The part that kind of threw me off with that under was that, like, we've seen Nick Mullins is a capable backup. I think he's playing this weekend, right? Like, he's their backup still? Is it Nick Mullins?
Yeah, he's still the backup, yeah.
Yeah. Like, he did it with a lot less skill around him, but now they also don't have skill again because everybody's hurt. So I was really just kind of like I just hate betting under, so that's part of this bias right here. And I actually didn't have a best pick for this game, and I literally wrote down check Daniel Jones over under for rushing yards because he's sneaky. He sneakily gets I think he averages 22 yards a game in rushing for absolutely no reason. So, and I've actually made a decent amount. One of my boys texted me before week 1 and said, take Jones over rushing yards. And I was like, all right, I'll trust you. I didn't even look. I just went and took it. And it's hit the first 2 weeks because Vegas puts him at 15.5, and he averages 22 or 23 for his career. So that would be my bet if it's around that number. I don't know if Vegas is. I'm trying to load my app right now and it's not loading. But if anybody can get Jones over 15-ish rushing yards, I would take that as the bet in this game. But like you said, if I'm picking a generic over-under or a spread, I would probably take the under too. Just kind of scares me.
Yeah, it's got to that point where they've set the under so low because of all the injuries. public are going to hammer the hell out of it because they're not. The average bettor isn't going to look at what's the average score. Because I would say, for me, if I'm looking at a game, the average NFL score will be 47. If it's lower than 47, it's low. If it's over 47, it's high. Like, that's my personal gauge. The average bettor is just going to go into that game, think, 40 points, that's like, what, 7 touchdowns? And then they're going to bet under. And it's like, at that point, it's gone down and down. It wouldn't surprise me if that goes down to about 38 by tomorrow, because the public are going to hammer the hell out of that by the time Schefter starts tweeting, Nonnels will be without millions of players, and then all the money's going to go on it. So it's almost at that danger area now of like, stay away, because it's defensive touchdowns, it's field goals. All it takes realistically is 20 points each on average, because you can't really get 20, so you're looking at 21 and you're dead. If it's 21-21, which is 3 touchdowns each, you're gone. So I would, as much as I would say that'd be the bet I'd go for, I'm not betting at this game. Like, I'm staying well away from it.
Yeah. Oh, I just found it on DraftKings. Daniel Jones over-under for rushing is 16.5, and that's hit in 100% of his games this year. I know that's only 2 games, but 16.5, I would take it. Like, why not?
Yeah,
like,
I'll take a punt on that.
If you really want to bet this game for some reason, if you're a Giants game and want to watch, or Giants fan, and want a reason to watch it, bet is over for rushing. Screw it. That's probably your best bet here.
Yeah, no, that's just a good shout. All right, so Tennessee, Minnesota then. -2.5 are the Titans. I don't know. This game's another one. It's got me on strings a bit. It's a very much of a, toilet tinker where you just be sat there contemplating where to put the money. How are you feeling about it?
See, this one hurts because I've always kind of given Kirk Cousins the benefit of the doubt. I feel like he's better, that hurts to say, but he's better than most people make him out to be. I know he kind of stinks in prime time, but, like, I don't know. Like, I saw this line at one point was -1.5 in favor of the Titans, which was kind of surprising. I didn't even know they did 1.5 lines. I thought it stopped at 2. But the Titans are 5-1-1 against the spread in their last 7 when they're favored. And Kirk Cousins is 34th in QBR right now. And Tannehill's QBR is like over 120. So I picked the Titans -2. Or -2, 2.5. I have 2 written down, but I think you just said it's 2.5 now. I picked it just because, as of right now, I trust Ryan Tannehill more than I trust Kirk Cousins. But the part that hurts me is, like, I just can't buy into the Titans. I have no idea why. So
it's a weird one. I think they had that problem last year as well. And the problem with the Titans from a bettor's perspective is they're 2-0 right now, which is great. They're 0-2 against the spread. That's the thing. And it's like, you go back to week 1 with Denver, like, our lock of the week was obviously, mine was Denver because of the altitude and stuff. And they missed, 3 field goals? And it's stuff like that just stings them. And the thing veering me away from basic logic this week, which is essentially what it is, because you're right. I think if you're going to be smart, it's Tannehill, it's Derrick Henry. You take the hotter offense and against a struggling defense. But it's that 0-2 danger number of a team that's 0-2 coming in. It's desperation, save the season time. Like, any team, I can't remember what the exact number is, but anytime you bet a team that's 0-2, it's typically odds in your favour. And the Vikings are a desperate 0-2. They're not just like a team like the Jets where it's, we're 0-2. This is a team that, they should be competing. They should be competing. And not only that, but they're 10-2 against the spread after a loss in their last 12 losses, which to me speaks volumes. The Titans are 2-8. They're 0-2 against the spread. That's the key number for me that I'm going back to. You get a desperate Vikings team at home with points off a loss. That points in that's what I mean. That's what's veering me away from this basic logic of the better quarterback and the better offense.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. I wouldn't bet the game at all. I probably won't, but I knew I had to make a pick. So, honestly, take a player prop. Yeah. But I don't mean to completely take a 360 here. but I just got a notification from Twitter that Desmond Trufant was ruled out for the Lions. So if you're not taking the Cardinals this weekend, you're literally on crack.
Right.
I don't know what to tell you. Like, who's going to cover DeAndre Hopkins?
I literally just went to open my bookmaker app and like lump on it, and then I look up and Ricky's talking about that's amazing. Oh god, okay, this is getting chaotic. I'd love to see it. Okay, so while I'm trying to sort this, then, and I say sort this, I mean just descend into full gun degeneracy because that line's going to move quick. Washington at Cleveland, Washington +7. I don't. Okay, I want to come to, and I'll keep coming to you first, but you can tell I'm really not comfortable with many of my picks this week. Where do you stand on this one?
I'm sorry. Could you repeat what game you just said?
Washington, Cleveland.
Oh, okay. I actually saw this line, and I texted my friends right away. I was like, is there a reason the Browns, like, what if the Browns proven to be touchdown favorites? And I'm probably leaning toward actually taking the Browns to win this game and probably cover because I saw it at 6 at one point, and I would take them to win by a touchdown. But the fact that it's 7, like, is it really worth the risk just for a push?
Yeah.
So, I mean, Washington's kind of, your favorite thing is backdoor covers, and Washington's kind of built for backdoor covers. And they scored all but 7 of their 42 points this season in the second half.
Oh.
So, like, that's the part that kind of threw me off, too. My best bet for this game was actually teasing Washington with another team, possibly the Rams. Get Washington to be +14 and the Rams to be +9 or 9.5. But then again, this is another game I don't really see the point in betting because what's the point of risking the money to either just get your money back or lose? But, yeah, I don't know. This is a tough one.
Yeah,
I'm kind of interested to hear what you have to say. You might have more analysis than I do.
I think if it moves to 7.5, I would take the Washington football team. Like,
yeah,
at the minute, you're right. Like, there is no point. If you're just going to get a push out of this, it's not worth the heart attack. My analysis on it is just that the Bengals couldn't stop Nick Chubb running riot, but Washington's defensive line is a very different beast. We've learned that through the first 2 weeks. If they can pressure Baker Mayfield enough to make mistakes, which he's been prone to do, I think they'll do enough to stay within 7. But 7's the key number. You want it either above or below that. Would I take them at 6.5? Probably not. I would take them at 7.5.
Yeah, I'm pretty much on the same page. You're gonna have to force Baker to throw the. They're gonna force Baker to throw the ball. He shows his true colors when he's under pressure. So I can't talk today apparently, but I don't know. Is Washington better than we think? I don't know, but like you said, and like 7.5 Washington, 7. Don't bet it. 6, 6.5. Maybe I'll take the Browns. Probably not. I really like the idea of teasing this game though, so that's what I'll end up doing most likely.
So, Battle of the Bums, I'll call this, unfortunately, but it's also a game where if the Eagles lose, I don't want to be on social media for because I'm going to be the one responsible playing for the Bengals, and I've got a bias here, given that my teammates need me to step up and make a win. But Cincy at Philadelphia, Eagles -5. Oh, I don't like this.
I don't. First of all, that joke was kind of under the radar. It didn't click right away, but then you said that that was funny. But I mean, I don't know. I feel like it's rare that you have an 0-2 team giving nearly a touchdown to a team that's been competitive for 2 games.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I mean, like you said, though, the Eagles need to win. Like, it's not like it's some, like I've never heard of a must-win in week 3. But the Eagles, like, if they want any shot at having a remotely decent season, they need to win. This is a game they can't drop. Like, I don't know what else to say. But, I mean, Wentz has a good opportunity. I know there's some people out there that don't think Wentz should get any criticism. I don't know. he did face two of like the best defensive lines in the league, I feel like, with Washington and LA. But I think the offensive line held their ground surprisingly. So like at what point this could be a whole year-long conversation, but I don't think I don't think Geno Atkins is playing.
No, they're down 3 defensive tackles, I think.
Yeah, like Wentz should have all the time in the world to throw. So if this is a week he's going to come out of a slump, this is where he's going to have to do it. He's not going to get a much better opportunity. So I don't know. Personally, something I do know is that the under is 8-3-1 in the last 12 Bengals road games. So maybe the under's the play. But I actually saw the Eagles at -4.5. I took the Eagles -4.5. That is pure bias speaking. That bet will not be placed in any parlay, any teaser at all. That is a single bet that I'm betting just because I want the win to feel much better that I won money because I bet it. That's not something I'd suggest to anybody else if you're trying to play this smart. I took the Eagles -4.5. The smart bet here is probably... Actually, what's the over-under sitting at? I didn't even have it written down.
I haven't actually checked. I thought it was like 44.
That's what I thought, too. I thought it was like 44, 45. But maybe... I don't even know if I feel like there might be points to be scored here. I don't know. What's your thoughts? I need to hear your thoughts.
For me, this game's a bit of a weird one. Purely because the one stat that stands out, and it's a bit of a vibe, I can't lie, right, is that Joe Burrow is 1 for 20 on explosive passes.
You're going to have to explain what an explosive pass is, because I've actually no idea.
So it's a pass more than 12 yards.
Okay.
And the only pass that he's completed was a touchdown. So you've got that. You've got the Eagles who... Carson Wentz has got a lot of accuracy issues at the minute. I don't think it's the offensive line to blame. You're 100% right. Like, I did a film ream on it earlier this week. It's 100% on Wentz. Like, anything that is a problem with Wentz right now, it's not, oh, the receivers are dropping this, the receivers should be catching that. It's Wentz is misfiring and cannot place a ball to save his life. Like, you shouldn't be leading Rager into a hit where, not the one where he ultimately broke his thumb, that's not the point I'm getting at, but that throw shouldn't have been made. It's a short-term decision-making. Like, he can read defenses, he can go through the progressions, he's very mentally aware, but the fundamentals, I don't know where they've gone, I don't know what's happened to them, but there is no rhythm, there's no fluid rhythm, and unless that can get corrected in a week, and again, like I always liken this to a golf swing, I'm sure you'll like that analogy anyway, but as a quarterback, if you mess something up, and you overthink it, and then the rest of your stuff falls well. So, if you're overswinging, or you're bringing the club back too far and you work on that, then you do something to change that. There's something you do to change often impacts something else. So, I remember when I was a junior playing, and I had a real problem of swinging out to in and slicing the ball. So as I'm coming down, I'm twisting the club face, and then to combat that, I'd be like trying to keep the club pointed to the floor on the way up, because I was really focused on keeping my arms rigid to keep the club straight, it was I started topping the ball loads because I was coming down onto the ball. And it's the same sort of thing with a quarterback, where like Wentz right now is essentially his front leg isn't always lined up properly, and he's taking a bit of a step to the left, so he's not pointing at the target. And the torso's disconnected from his arm, so instead of one fluid motion where he's generating the power with the upper body, it's all in the shoulder. So his body comes around and then the arm just flaps, which is why the ball is going up, down, left. And I know this is a totally different thing, but I can't see Carson Wentz getting that correct in 1 week. That is going to be a few weeks at a minimum of delicate film work and practice. So I would take the under.
Honestly, okay, I just saw the under was 47.5 too, and I would take the under too. I thought it was lower than that. 48 though, that's a little steep. Now, do you think, without going too far off betting for a second, but do you think that has to do with his back? Because I feel like when I had back problems, I couldn't get the full rotation, and I was using all arms in my swing. And obviously, you need to use hips and back.
Do you know what? It's weird, because I thought that the last time I saw him play like this was 2018. And I said it in the film room. And in 2018, he was coming off an ACL tear. And the reason I thought he was doing this was because he couldn't put weight on that leg. Therefore, he's generating a lot of upper body momentum, and he's trying to almost overexert with his back, which is how he injured his back in the first place, I think.
Yeah, overcompensate, yeah.
Yeah. So it's a chance. We know he had a groin injury in camp. It could be that that's lingering, it's hurting a bit, and it's the same sort of thing. I don't know, but I can't see Carson Wentz being accurate enough on deep passes. Like, there was that one to Dallas Goedert where he was wide open, like he had a step on his corner. There's that phrase, isn't there, where it's like, if he's even, he's leaving. And he got open, had a step, threw it behind the corner, like not even behind the player, behind the corner. Goddard had to stick his arm out behind the DB, and it was short anyway. And there was another one where he overthrew Ertz by like 5 yards. Like, Wentz is just playing bad football now. And I understand that the one thing tempting me back is that Cincy have given up 370 rushing yards in 2 weeks, no defensive line depth. I think that Miles Sanders will have a field day. Like, that would be a DraftKings start if anyone wants that. But I don't know. I'm staying so far away from that game because it is red flags all over it. I think Joe Burrow's looked good, but can't get on a deep pass. I think Carson Wentz has looked terrible, but could eat up at any moment. So it's so volatile. Like, there's no point risking the money, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't disagree. Again, people, if you actually listen to us, I'm only betting this game because I'm an Eagles fan. I'm not betting this game because I'm a smart bettor. So
yeah. I feel you on that one. All right, so a game that I think another group of people probably stay away from. Chicago, Atlanta. Falcons -3 in this one. Quarterback in it's a mismatch. I think that's fair to say that Matt Ryan is by far the better quarterback. The Bears struggle on the road. I don't think they should be 2-0, but the Falcons are giving up 6.9 yards per play, which is 31st in the NFL. So it's one of them where you're thinking, all right, well, Mitch Trubisky's bad, but how bad? Like, is he going to be able to do something against that Falcons defense and do enough to stick within a 3-point radius?
Yeah, I mean, I guess because this could be both a good and bad stat, but like the Bears needed 21 points in the fourth quarter to beat a really bad Lions team, and then they didn't cover against the Giants, who literally, I think Saquon got hurt in the first like 5 minutes of the game, so they didn't have very convincing wins. They're probably the worst 2-0 team in the league.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
So I'm still pretty high on the Falcons. I would take Falcons -3. I think that's the spread. I'm sorry if I said the spread differently than you did. When I saw it was -3, I would take that, honestly. But this is another game. Like, I don't know why you're watching unless you're a Bears or Falcons fan in the first place. So,
yeah, I fully agree with that one. I think this is just a bit of a nightmare game where it could probably go either way, and it most likely is going to be a bit of a fourth quarter crazy one where Trubisky throws an interception or something like that. I like the over, personally. I think if the Falcons defense is struggling and we think Matty Ice can actually do something here, then the over could be a play. Which is it's weird looking at my bets considering how many are totals after giving such a rant about never bet totals. So if I'm going to touch it, I'd touch the over, but I don't plan on betting that game.
yeah, I mean, it's a good week of football, though. I feel if you're not betting spreads, then you got some pretty good matchups. So, yeah. Honestly, I think I'm very excited to my hockey game. I got to coach is early in the morning. I'm going to be able to sit down exactly at kickoff and watch the entire day on Red Zone. And I'm super excited to just watch these games this week because there's not going to be many games on paper that are going to be blowouts. So, I'm excited at least. Even the Bears and Falcons game, I'll probably watch a little bit of it. Not that I don't know why, but
that's fair. All right, Jets and Colts. Oh, the Jets. I hate them after last week. I hope they lose this game and get blown out massively. I cannot stand them. They're banged up everywhere. They're 11.5-point dogs against the Colts. Are you going to play a Liam and just take the Jets and keep riding it again? At that point, it's like losing all your money on blackjack and just going again and again and again and just getting like sixes and then getting 16 and then getting 15 and just having no luck with it whatsoever.
See, the part that threw me off here was I saw the spread and it's 11.5 now. Early in the week it was 10.5, so it moved. Like, I feel like the Jets always play the Colts kind of good, so I went and did some research on it, and the Colts lead the all-time series between the two teams 42-32, but that was with like Namath and Manning. Like in their past
Right.
5 games against the Jets are 4-1. And the only time the Colts won is when they won 41-10 in 2016. But that's the only time they've won in the past 4 or 5 years against the Jets. And I feel like the Colts this season have been like playing down to their opponents.
Mm.
So I here's what I word for word what I have written down. It scares me to say this, but I would take Jets plus 11, but please don't bet unless you're a Jets fan.
No, I agree with that one. Like, I don't think I want to touch this. I think Jonathan Taylor's going to get a lot of work. I think that with that in mind, if you're playing DraftKings this week, Taylor and Sanders would be a beautiful little running
Yeah.
back tandem to field. Indianapolis are coming off a good game against the Colts team. Against the Minnesota team that looked terrible. We can all agree that we touched on that earlier. Does that justify a 4-point swing though? Because this game opened at 7. Like the look ahead line was 7. I don't think I've seen enough from the Colts in 2 weeks. Like you said, they're playing down to their opponents to justify over a field goal against the Jets. And if you really want to be that 0-2 against the spread guy, the Jets 0-2 ATS. I'm staying away. I hate it, but it could be an in play if the Colts go ahead on their first drive and that line jumps to like 16. I might touch it, like just a little flirt in play. But overall, I'm probably not going near that because that team gives me PTSD now.
Yeah, I'm with you.
All right, so Panthers, Chargers. This is a fun one. This is a very, very fun one. The line is 6.5, which is a dangerous line to play because it's not that safe number. It's not the 7. The Chargers have got to be, first and foremost, got to be impressed with Justin Herbert, right? Like, to come in the way he did, perform relatively well. There are a lot of concerns about him coming out of college, whether he'd be ready for a leap in his rookie season. He did well. The Panthers now don't have Christian McCaffrey, who leads the league in rushing touchdowns. And I think, at home, with Herbert, against a coin flip defense, like the Panthers let me down on both occasions, there's another... The only thing stopping me right now is that the Chargers are 2-10-1 since 2018 as an ATS favourite. The one thing picking me up is that they're coming off an overtime loss to the Chiefs, and that's either going to be a letdown spot to an 0-2 Panthers team against the spread, or it's going to be the pickup spot of the Panthers are struggling, they don't have a running back, we know we can go toe-to-toe with the Super Bowl champions, let's destroy Carolina. It's one of those two.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I kind of feel like I think the Chargers play the Bucks next week, so this is a pretty big game. Like, if they want any chance at solidifying any chance of making the playoffs, like this is the game they have to win with the Bucks coming up next week and then losing that close game last week. And like, I have to say this though, like I cannot believe what happened to Tyrod Taylor. I read that and I was genuinely
Yeah.
baffled that even happened. I feel so bad for him, and I'm sure it was some just pure accident, but like that's just insane, like how that happened. But I don't know. But Panthers are 1-5 against the spread in their last 6 when they're underdogs on the road. It's a tough spot for the Chargers. I feel like the Chargers kind of have to win this game. I have Chargers -6. I don't know if they've really done anything to be touchdown favorites, but I was trying to pick money. I mean, I was trying to pick spreads, so I went with the -6. Again, one I'm not very confident in, but take the Chargers by a touchdown. Screw it. I feel like that's your best option here if you're trying to pick a spread or an over/under.
Yeah, no, I think that's probably the safest bet to go with. It's just a tricky game overall. Like, I think all our consolations go to Tyrod Taylor straight away because it's just an absolute... It's a freak incident and one that you just can't even imagine comprehending until you read it. Like, you have to reread it so many times. Just that short statement to go, wait, what? Like, really?
Literally.
So, yeah, I hope he's okay in his recovering. So, there is, I guess, the element of distraction as well. Like, I kind of like the over here at 43.5. I think that could be a play.
That's...
If you want to go down that road. Just because I think Herbert's going to be confident. The Panthers are going to have to throw the ball without McCaffrey. It could very well become a shootout. That's my personal thing. If Panthers defense isn't great, no Christian McCaffrey, Chargers are going to score. Panthers are going to have to throw from behind, I think. So it could easily get to like a 30-21, and that would get it safely over, you know?
Yeah, I mean, the Chargers defense has always been low key kind of good. So I don't know if the Panthers could really I don't know if they'll let it turn into a shootout per se, but I could definitely see them both being in the 20s. I thought it was higher than 44.
Yeah, I don't know. I had to double take that line a couple of times,
Yeah.
so keep that one in mind. The next one's Detroit, Arizona. I think we've both hammered that into the ground at this point at Arizona minus 5.5. So if you needed a brief refresher, in the words of Ricky, if you're not betting Arizona, you're on crack. So that's all we need to say about that one. Tampa Bay minus 5.5 at Denver. This one is another one of those ones where I might stay away from it because Denver's injury situation's bad. I think Jeff Driscoll looked really good last week in relief of Drew Lock, but without Cortland Sutton, that's going to be tough. The Bucks defense has struggled. Tom Brady looks a bit average, which I think we all agreed he was going to. Like the second you step away from Belichick, new system, COVID, getting older, it was all adding up to be a slightly underwhelming year, I feel, for Brady, by his standards at least. And what I really like here is that the Broncos are 4-1 as a home underdog under Vic Fangio. So 5.5, if that line sneaks to 6, I'm probably going to sprinkle some on that.
Yeah, I actually have written down any 6 or higher, take Broncos. 6 or under, take Bucks. So that was my take on it. I actually saw my first stat that I came across was that the under was 18-8-1 in the Broncos' last 27 games. So my mind instantly went to the over-under. But I think it was only 41.5 or 42 at the time I saw it. And I was like, I really don't like that because I feel like both teams are capable of scoring, like especially 20 points. So I would definitely lean toward 6 or up Broncos. If it's less than 6, take the Bucks. I don't think, because I think Chris Godwin's coming back this week. Mike Evans looks like he's finally clicking with Brady. I think he had over 100 yards and a touchdown last week. Like you said, Cortland Sutton's out. Jerry Jeudy's questionable. I don't know if he's playing. Don't know if Philip Lindsay's playing.
No,
I feel
he's out,
confident
yeah.
in the Bucks. So, but like you said, that touchdown's a lot. I don't know if it's a touchdown type game, but it's definitely a Bucks winnable game. So,
yeah, definitely an interesting one. Probably one again you put in that market of don't bet it unless you really want something to bet. But with so much on it, if this is on a Wednesday night for some reason, take it. If it's on a Sunday at 6 p.m. or whenever it is, it's not worth it. You've got a lot of other options, you know. Dallas and Seattle, though, is one of the headline games this week. I'm a big fan of it. I can't wait to see how that pans out. Interesting pick, though, because you're either going with a 5-point favourite Seattle after their defense allowed nearly 400 passing yards, or you're going with a Dallas team coming off the ultimate backdoor cover, knowing that their defense gave up a stupid amount of passing yards as well. So I don't know. In games like this, I would always ride the hotter quarterback, which I feel is Russell Wilson. But there is something appealing about Dallas, and I hate to say that.
yeah, I mean, I told you I'm 99% sure Dak Prescott's throwing at least 2 touchdowns. So, but I actually went a little bold on this one. I took the over 54.5. Like we kind of talked about earlier, Cowboys lead the league in long yardage plays. Seahawks allow the most. But Russell Wilson's an MVP candidate. He always is.
Yeah.
He's so sneakily good every year, like beyond good every single year. I'm so upset that the Eagles couldn't draft him because I think he went in like the 3rd round.
Yeah, there was talk. I can't remember the exact story, but there was talk that the Eagles didn't want him, or they wanted to pick him up around later, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, this just came into my head, but I might put the Washington football team and this over in a teaser and get this down into the 40s because I feel like that's a lock of this over-unders in the 40s, and then take Washington plus 14 in a teaser. I feel like that's my very confident non-cheat or no-cheat bet of the week. That was a mouthful, but...
No, it's a good... I like that. I think that's a good shout. I think Seattle... I never like betting against Seattle. I never like it because they always seem to hang around and they always put themselves in a position to at least get a backdoor win or a
Yeah.
backdoor cover. And like 5 minutes to go, Seattle down by 2 scores. Regardless of who the other team is, you're always going to be a bit nervous. You're always going to be nervous. And with Jamal Adams playing the way he is...
Oh, yeah, he's so good.
Like, I don't know. It's hard to bet against Seattle in this spot. I like the prop bet that you bet instead. So, like, you know what? It's horrible. It's horrible. It's one of those games I really want to bet, and I'm so nervous to pull the trigger either way. Because I don't think Dallas are good enough to go toe-to-toe, but that offense is so dangerous. And if it does heat up, I think Mike McCarthy is one of the more safer coaches in the league in terms of the calls he goes for and the decisions. Like, he's not going to do anything risky early on. I can see it being a lot closer. So I would say go with the prop bet and just hope for the best, because that's going to be a thrilling game in every sense of the word. I'm talking of another one. Green Bay, New Orleans.
This game and the next two we're going to talk about are going to be fun.
Yeah, like Green Bay, New Orleans. Oh, what a showdown! Like Aaron Rodgers and Drew Brees. Like that is the ultimate like Madden 11. Sit at home in your room, pit those two QBs against each other game just to see how it pans out. The Saints have always started slow though, and I remember talking to you about this in week 1 and saying that like in weeks 1 and 2 they're really poor, like really poor. But they're 13-2 in games between week 3 and 4. They were minus 5.5 on the look-ahead line. It's now down to minus 3. The Packers look unreal. Aaron Rodgers looks ridiculous. But will Green Bay put up 40-plus against this defense? Because that, realistically, there's no Michael Thomas. Drew Brees looks a bit wobbly. We saw what happened with the Raiders. I get it. I think, if anything, that's given us value on the Saints. But I would, if I'm honest... The over is 7-1 in the last 8 games between these two teams. I might just pound the over. I don't care if it's at 53. It's one of them where it's just so saucy with the offenses on both teams. Yeah, because if Green Bay put up 35, you don't need New Orleans to do much.
Yeah, I mean, I actually leaned a little differently. Well, actually, to back what you just said, though, the over is 7-1 in the last 8 times these teams have met. And the Packers have looked literally dominant. I don't know where it came from. They've looked like easily one of the best, like top 3 teams in the league. And Rodgers has thrown 604 yards and 6 touchdowns this season. Aaron Jones has a total 236 yards and 3 touchdowns last week. Saints aren't the Lions. That's not what I'm saying. But Malcolm Jenkins, and that Saints defense has not looked like what they were made out to be. And that kind of pains me to say because I really like Malcolm Jenkins. But I don't know. I feel like the Saints need Michael Thomas pretty bad. And if Alvin Kamara decides to have one of his, laid back-ish, non-elite type games like he's capable of, kind of like what happened last season and in game 1 this year, I don't know. I have Packers +3. But if that is anything less than a field goal, I don't think I would take that. I feel like it's going to be a very close field goal type game. Maybe even like a field goal in overtime type game.
Yeah. Honestly, there's so many games like this where...
You brought up that stat about the weeks 3 and 4, and you really got me thinking.
Yeah, that's, 13-2, and I can't remember the exact stat for weeks 1 and 2, but that was the whole reason I went against them early in week 1, because I was like, they're terrible. They always take a little while to heat up. 13-2 in weeks 3 and 4 over the last few years, which, if you think that's that's 15 games, that's 7 years, probably 7-8 years worth of a trend there. But it's Aaron Rodgers, so I would be tempted with the over. I honestly don't like this.
I like the over better.
Yeah, I like the over better.
I was trying to pick spreads this week. So I avoided over-unders, but the over is definitely my more confident pick in this one.
Yeah, I would agree with that one. As fun as I think I might just enjoy this game as a spectator because it is going to be a moment. I cannot wait for it. That's going to be... It's a football dream. That's what I'm saying. That's a type of game as a teenager. You boot up Madden 5 years ago and you put Drew Brees and Aaron Rodgers against each other and you just have fun. And it's that's the kind of vibe this is. Final game of the week then, Kansas City at Baltimore. This is really an AFC Championship preview. I think we can all really agree that this, if it's not, it should be. The Chiefs have struggled to score against the Chargers. That was the big thing. Like, the Chiefs against the Chargers, Mahomes didn't look like an MVP, right? He was good. I mean, he was a damn sight better than Carson Wentz, but he wasn't MVP form. I like the idea of anything like this where you've got two juggernauts, two championship teams in a game that could well be a championship game, that you take the points. I feel like, is that too much if it's over a field goal to take Kansas City? But you look at that Ravens offense and it just hits a bit different with the way they move the ball around and they're so dominant on the ground. So if I'm leaning towards taking the points with Kansas City because I don't think you can split these two teams by much. Like, everyone you ask is going to have a different opinion. Everyone you ask. It is not like you can go, there is a consensus that Kansas is better than Baltimore or Baltimore is better than Kansas. I think it is so 50-50 down the middle that you kind of have to take the points if you're betting it.
Yeah, like, Baltimore buried their first two opponents. Like, it was the Browns and the Texans. Like, it would have been better off if those other teams didn't even play. And the Ravens have won 14 straight regular season games now, I think. But on the flip side, they've never beaten Mahomes. I think they're 0-2 or 0-3. But those losses have been by a grand total of 8 points. So, I don't know. Mahomes is 9-0 in September for his career. That's another stat I had written down that I just thought was really interesting. I don't know who he's played in September and throughout his career, but 9-0 is impressive. So, I actually took my best bet as Lamar scoring a touchdown, whether it's rushing or for some reason receiving. I just had some visualization in my head as I was doing this of Hollywood Brown catching a deep ball and getting tackled on like the 2 and Lamar just running it in. I don't know why, but it was like, it's only plus 120, so it shows that Vegas must be feeling something like that too. So I would take Lamar to score a touchdown.
Or even that, and the fact that you've been decoding the Matrix all day. I mean, you've got to know something at this point, right?
I hope.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that's a good shout. Again, it's so hard to split these two teams. So I would probably lean with that or a prop bet or passing yards or anything that isn't the total, which I think is going to be inflated, or the handicap, which it's going to be a close game. And if you don't want to be on the edge of your seat for the whole time, it's unless you want to do in play, maybe that's an option, but obviously we can't predict that for you. So what I love about this is that I thought going into this week we'd have a lot of like really healthy discussion, which we have. I didn't really account for how many games we'd be going, I don't know. Like, we just sat there going, I don't know. Like, I genuinely don't know what to do. Like, the line's so tight, or that it's a 0.5, or it's not the key number, or the over's a bit dodgy. And about half of these games, like, are so scary that it either makes the best bet seem that much more enticing, and my main takeaway from it all is if you don't bet Arizona, you're on crack. All right, that's it. That's the only takeaway I've got, because the rest of it, yeah, like, the rest of it's up in the air. But Arizona, if you're not a crack addict, that's the line, right?
I'm gonna end up coming back next week with the Lions having some stupid backdoor cover, and like Arizona's gonna win by 5, not 5.5. That's exactly what's gonna happen. And I'm going to not even want to come on the podcast next week. I'm going to be so upset because I'm going to look a fool. But that's the best part of betting. So,
yeah,
it is what it is.
As a heads up, if you do bet your dog and you lose, we are not responsible for the outcome, okay? All we're doing is trying to give tips. But yeah, a massive thanks to you guys for listening. Thank you to Ricky, as always, for joining me. It has been another fun episode of Spreading the Love. If you're not subscribed already, do make sure you're following. We're on all good podcast platforms, so Apple, Spotify, Amazon now have one. We're on there apparently. DEEZER, all of them lot. It has been a vibe, to say the very least. Best of luck with your bets this weekend. I honestly don't want to bet anything but Arizona at this point. So that's probably where my money's going this week. And maybe Ricky's Dak Prescott one as well, because that was pretty naughty. And maybe the Patriot. All right, maybe I'm going to bet, all right? Look, I'm a degenerate. I can't help it. But yeah, Ricky, how can people follow you on Twitter? Because I know you post a lot of, I would say, premium pics on TikTok and stuff as well. It makes it sound like an OnlyFans, just to spice it up a little bit.
You guys can follow me at Ricky_Amandeo8 on Twitter. And also the Daily John on TikTok. Like we were kind of talking about earlier, I took a little bit of a step back, but I'm hoping with my grades staying high and me getting back into a routine, I'm going to start posting more often soon. So follow me on TikTok and you get some free plays every day. Usually I win. It's like 80% of the time is my rate. So
touch wood, let's not jinx it. But he's been doing well. That's why we had to make the podcast, because he has been just red hot. And I think if we've learned anything about Ricky, it's just that analysis today. Absolutely spicy. So guys, make sure you give Ricky a follow. My Twitter's at Liam